All right, our next speaker is going to be Linda Leopold. She's the head of AI policy at H&M Group, leading the company's work on sustainable and ethical AI. After many years in the media industry and working as an innovation strategist at the intersection of fashion and technology, Linda joined the advanced analytics and AI function at H&M Group in 2018. Linda has written 2 nonfiction books and has studied journalism and project management at Stockholm University. Please join me in welcoming Linda to the stage for her talk, We Need to Talk About Ethics.
Good morning, everyone. A wonderful thing about working with AI is that it's impossible to become bored. You wake up an ordinary Tuesday morning and Mona Lisa is talking. I mean, who would have thought after all these years? It's impossible to become bored because the AI development is delivering jaw-dropping news on a regular basis as both research and adaptation is moving forward rapidly. And many industries are facing new, unexpected challenges. For example, I love reading about the legal community scratching their heads as people are trying to sue algorithms. Or the art world arguing about authorship when Christie's here in New York sold an AI-generated artwork for the first time last fall. Who should we blame when things go wrong? And who should get credit when things succeed? Is it the creator of the algorithm, the user, the trainer, or the AI model itself? It's really confusing and so interesting, I think. As a former journalist and writer, I get particularly excited about new research in natural language processing, and especially text generation. Finally, we might have a treatment for the terrible condition writer's block. But also, and I admit this is more serious, better and better tools for creating misinformation on a grand scale. So serious that OpenAI decided not to release the full version of the latest language model for safety and security reasons. Following the AI development is a constant mix of amazement, hope, and fear. Like all technology, AI can be used for good or for bad. The same type of algorithm can be used to improve healthcare or to produce fake news videos. Today's AI can be of enormous benefits to society or a threat to democracy, depending on how it is used. So in that sense, it is like any other tool, just a very, very powerful one. But the tricky thing with machine learning is that even with the best intentions from the creators, even if you really want to do good, things can still go terribly wrong. And I think we've all seen the potential dangers and the early public missteps with self-learning algorithms. Chatbots becoming racist, triggered by comments on Twitter, or image recognition systems trained on unrepresentative data. And none of these were meant to cause any harm, and yet they did. We humans have created a very powerful technology that is complex and unpredictable, and still very immature, both the technology itself and our conversation in society around it, because we haven't really learned how to control it yet. And I think powerful and immature is a very interesting combination. It's like an almighty toddler. And we're often letting this toddler out in the world with minimal parental guidance, letting it make its own decisions and act on them. In the early days of AI adaptation, there's been a lot of bad parenting. A few weeks ago, I was listening to Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, who called digital ethics and responsible AI the question of our time. I agree with him, and I don't think we need to wait for a potentially conscious artificial general intelligence that will treat us all as ants, because the questions are pressing enough, challenging enough as they are today. The most pressing ethical questions regarding AI differs a lot between industries, of course. If you look at, for example, the healthcare industry, the media industry, or makers of autonomous cars, they face very different challenges than the retail industry. And the retail industry's challenges might even seem trivial in comparison. I mean, after all, we're just selling things. So why do we need to care about AI and ethics? And I think the simple answer is exactly that, because we care. If you care about your customers, your employees, and the world around you, you can't ignore this topic. But let me also borrow some arguments from a Gartner report about the urgent need for digital ethics. Trust in business is at an all-time low today. And the risk of not monitoring technology for unintended consequences could lead to public embarrassment and scandals, harm people's privacy, health, or lives, and can have an adverse effect on the business in terms of reputation or shareholder value. While the benefits of taking a clear stand can differentiate your company from the competition and result in higher customer satisfaction. As technology is often developing faster than legislation, it's not enough just to follow the law. AI opens up so many new possibilities, but that we can do something doesn't mean that we should do it. And the discussion has to go from, are we compliant, to are we doing the right thing? I joined H&M Group last fall as head of AI policy in the Advanced Analytics and AI department. And at that point, our AI projects were already covering the whole value chain, from design to customer experience. We are using AI to better forecast trends and predict demand, to create the right assortment for our different stores, to optimize prices during sales, both online and offline, and to give our customers more relevant recommendations and offers. And my job is to lead our work on sustainable and ethical AI, creating frameworks and practical tools for this area. So, with a task like that, where do you start? Responsible AI may be a new area to H&M Group, but sustainability is not. Globally, we have 270 people working with sustainability, which makes it one of the largest sustainability organizations in the retail industry. Sustainability is core to the company's identity. However, our sustainability department, like many sustainability departments, was created in an analog world. And our focus has been mainly on the environment and on working conditions in our supply chain. So how do you translate the existing policies and visions to an AI context? On a very high level, we want to use AI to reach our sustainability goals, such as only using recycled or sustainably sourced materials by 2030 and having a climate-positive value chain by 2040. And we can already now see that our AI projects are having a great impact when it comes to reducing CO2 emissions. Because with the help of AI, we can become much sharper in aligning supply and demand, which, for example, leads to less transports and warehousing. And secondly, we want to work with AI in a responsible way, which means actively working to avoid causing any unintentional harm when using AI solutions. One of the first things we did was to create a checklist that is now used by all our ongoing and new AI projects. And it's centered around 9 areas that we think are crucial for responsible AI. All our projects should be focused, beneficial, fair, transparent, governed, collaborative, reliable, respecting privacy, and secure. This checklist is a 2-page document. It's with around 30 questions. It's long enough to cover the most important parts and short enough to be easy and practical to use. And to give a few examples, our questions cover, for example, topics like algorithmic bias, diversity in our AI teams, to purely technical questions around security. And many questions are phrased in an open way, so it's not that much about ticking boxes, but more about starting a conversation. So for example, instead of asking, does the use case have a negative effect on any vulnerable groups, we ask, have you discussed how the use case affects vulnerable groups? And it's just a tiny difference in wording, but I believe it forces you to think in another way. And you actually need to have that discussion. So my goal is to make the ethical questions top of mind for anyone working with AI. And I think one of the key methods to achieve that is to get people talking about it. But a discussion about AI and ethics can become very abstract. So to make the topic more tangible and easier to relate to, we tried something. Using the power of storytelling, we created the Ethical AI Debate Club. So we invited people from different parts of the company, from different departments, with different professional backgrounds, to meet up for a debate. And we wrote fictional ethical dilemmas that could potentially take place in the fashion industry today or in the near future, like mini science fiction stories. And we have also done this debate club at external events. Here we are in Berlin at an event called the Changemakers Lab this spring, where we included the customers, AI researchers, and also other fashion industry executives. And during these debates, people have to argue for a pre-assigned standpoint. And it might not be their personal opinion, but that's part of the exercise to actually force yourself to find arguments, even if you don't personally agree with them. So let me give you a flavor of it. This was one of the first stories I wrote. I had this idea about people starting to fall in love with a very charming voice assistant.
Your company's latest voice assistant, Mauricio, has been a huge success. Sales have increased significantly since you introduced him. His voice is smooth, seductive some would say. His manners charming, and he gives the customers excellent personalized service. He knows quite a few personal details about them, based on the large amount of data you have collected with their consent. But the conversation never feels intrusive. He is well versed in fashion history, delivers the most amusing and interesting anecdotes about the clothes that your customers are looking at. After a few months you notice that they have started to discuss other things than clothes with him. Life, love, lust. People are sharing their innermost secrets. He is such a good listener. And you are getting amazing data on customer behavior. Many of your customers are teenagers. Do you continue to use Mauricio?
So we had really heated debates about this dilemma. Yes, the customers have given their consent, but they are teenagers. Did they really know what they signed up for?
Come on, lady. They are digital natives. Of course they did. Don't underestimate them. And, you know, I am not that different from other voice assistants or chatbots. Just much more charming. I make people feel good about themselves.
But you were supposed to give them fashion advice, not be their therapist. And what about the risk of hacking?
Your secrets are safer with me than with your hairdresser.
Well. So we let people debate like this. And after around 7 minutes of pro and con arguments, we let the audience vote. And for most of our dilemmas, there was really no consensus after debate, no winning standpoint, which I think shows how difficult these questions can be. And the goal with the debate club is not to solve the dilemmas, it's to dive deeper into the topics and to challenge your initial gut feeling. And in many cases, also to tackle conflicting values. Like, for example, if you have to choose between social and environmental sustainability, as in this story.
It is 2025 and sewing robots are just as good as humans at producing clothes. A majority of fashion companies now have fully automated factories in all selling markets, with significantly reduced transports as a result. Following the last year's intensified debate on climate change, many environmentally aware customers embrace this shift. Producing closer to the customer also means that lead times have gotten shorter and customized on-demand production of clothes is common. However, another consequence of this rapid transformation is mass unemployment amongst previous garment workers, mainly young women in Southeast Asia. A global, feminist anti-automation movement has shaped in protest. As a both environmentally and socially aware customer living in a European country, you are torn between the choices on the fashion market. How do you spend your money if you want to do good? Do you buy local or global?
Discussions about ethical dilemmas give you the opportunity to really think through your values, which I think is a healthy exercise for any company, organization, or person. And by practicing on fictional scenarios like this, we can also sharpen our standpoint and ultimately avoid making mistakes in the real world. As you noticed, the question in the last dilemma is not about what a company should do in this situation. The decision concerns you as a customer. Do you buy local or global? Looking at this very complex future scenario from a customer's perspective was not just about giving the story another twist. It was also a way to highlight that the AI development is affecting us in many of our different roles, not only as business decision makers, but also as customers, as employees, and as citizens. In one way or another, we're all part of the development in AI. And I believe we have a shared responsibility in getting it right. AI is not a force of its own. So we need to work together to involve more people in the discussions around AI and ethics. If responsible AI is the question of our time, we also need to make it the conversation of our time. Thank you.